Hey friends, yes, it's a bit noisy. I'm next to a unit and I just had to record a video on this unit. Now, today's video is not going to be so much teaching, but rather just showing you some of the equipment that you might find yourself with out in the field. Now, this unit, I believe is a 40-year-old unit. You probably won't see these as much. A friend of mine, they purchased a home. They wanted me to check their heating and cooling. The heating is an 80%er. That wasn't too bad, but the cooling, it is a bit crazy. So it's a 40-year-old unit. I'm gonna show you, and like I said, it's not so much to teach you because I had to teach myself a lot about this unit. I'm still trying to understand it, but I think I have an idea. So this one here is, I guess the brand is called Arkla server gas-powered ammonia absorption air conditioner system. So I'll just show you a little bit about the unit. Right now, you see, you got burners right there. So this is the electrical. You got a cap, which you're already used to seeing it. And yes, guess what that is? That is a contactor. This is the open contact here, and this is the 24 volts. Crazy how they used to look back then. I don't know if it's called contactor, but it's the same concept where it receives 24 volts and it closes the switch. You got a transformer, you got a relay, you got your where your power comes in, you got a pump, you got a gas valve, and then you got a condenser fan right there, and then you got my mess over here. Like I said, it was gonna be a short video, but the way this one works, crazy. It uses ammonia. As you know, ammonia is a refrigerant in the sense that you can manipulate its pressures. We can provide heating and cooling. Now, I'm sure they use this more in commercial. I don't have a lot of experience from this, but I'll explain to you what I've been able to figure out, okay? Now, this system does not have a compressor. Yep, no compressor, and yet my line right here, and this is my water line going inside a indoor coil. It's cold. So the way this works, you have your high voltage, of course, right? Your 240 coming in here, L1 and L2. You got your low voltage, and this case they're only using two wires, right? So you're using your R and your yellow. So really, in reality, it's just a switch, right? So it sends out power from this red one here inside, and if I have a call for cooling, it comes back as 24 volts on the yellow wire next to it. So if I were to jump right here, it will turn on. But the way this one works, it uses ammonia, and it manipulates it by using 100% gas. Yeah, you heard that right. There is a gas line right here. This is my gas line right here. And you know how we've talked about 80-90% furnaces? If it's an 80% of that gas coming in, you're actually using it to heat your house. 20% gets vented out. 90% furnace, 90% of that heat goes to your home, providing heating to your house. 10% gets vented out. This one uses 100%, uses gas, right? But 100% of it just gets dumped out, literally, just to the environment. So natural gas is not natural gas friendly. You just have gas coming in. It does its combustion, as you can see. Look at all the burners. Look at all the flames, right? You see all that right there. You got your gas valve, 24 volts, and then the gas is seeping out through the sides, right here, and it's just coming out. So you can say that it's using it's 0% furnace, right? 100% of the gas, it gets vented out, but they're using the flames, that heat, to manipulate the ammonia. So you have this thing called an absorber, and inside that absorber, you had ammonia and water kind of just sitting together. And I might not explain it. Like I said, I just researched this today, but it kind of makes sense. So what it does in that absorber gets the heat, right? As you can see, all the flames right here, and actually the flames just turned off. Yeah, it just turned off. So I wonder what's going on. Now I'm gonna have to do I'm really gonna have to try to fix it because it was working out, but that's okay. We'll go back to that. I'm gonna have to go back to that and fix it. But the way it does this is uses gas, okay? It produces the burners, right? As you saw the flames, the burners. And the burners touches not directly the ammonia, but wherever the ammonia is encapsulated, and it drives the ammonia to separate from the water, and you have vapor ammonia then going to the condenser, and then it rejects the heat as you saw in the condenser fan. It comes out as liquid, right? Same thing as the refrigerant, your refrigeration cycle, and then it comes out to your metering device, drops the pressure, and in the evaporator, this is where it's a little bit different, and they usually call these indirect cooling. They don't call them DX cooling, they're indirect cooling. So basically, that ammonia in your evaporator is low pressure, low temperature, but you don't have the refrigerant going all the way inside. What it's doing is you're using water to create a heat transfer with the evaporator. So let's say you have, just an example, 50 degree, 60 degree water coming this way. It goes to that evaporator where it has that cold ammonia refrigerant, right, cold. And that water, right, it basically, with the ammonia, you're boiling off that liquid refrigerant and the water's coming back cold, right? Same thing as the air, right? Air to refrigerant. Warm air goes to the evaporator. You're boiling off all that liquid refrigerant, but then the air coming out is cold. Same thing, you got warm water, boiling off all that saturated, all that ammonia refrigerant, so that we can have vapor coming out. But now that warm water, because they went through that cold evaporator, is coming back cold, and that cold water then goes inside to an indoor coil, and you're inside of the house, and then you have the return air going through that cold coil full of water, cold water, not a refrigerant, just cold water. It goes through, that cold water picks up that heat, and then it comes back as 50 or 60 degrees, and it does the same cycle over and over again. That's all it is with this this system, at least. So, but you know what? The gas, this to turn off. I mean, I guess I can see if we have 24 volts going to the. So this pump right here, I mean, we can troubleshoot it together. I honestly don't know what I'm doing right here. So let's see. But I have an idea as to what to check. So I'm gonna go ahead, let's see if I can do it with one hand here. So obviously my pump is getting 240 volts in the back over there. Let's see if you guys can see this right here. All right, so one's gonna be on this side. You see that? I'm getting 240 volts. So obviously my pump is on. So water is going inside, but now that I don't have burners, it can heat up that ammonia to create the refrigeration cycle. So I'm gonna go ahead and check if I have 24 volts going to my gas valve here. .3 volts, 24 volts. You saw what's interesting? Once I push that, I got flames. I bet those connectors right there, they're all rusted. Because the moment that I mess with that, literally the moment you saw me touched it, the burners turned on right now. Look at the burners, they're on. Unless there was not a call for cooling. You actually have a time delay right here. So unless there was not a call for cooling and I have to go back inside and check, then it could have happened where I didn't have a call for cooling no more, but I have a timer delay where it keeps everything on for about 90 seconds and then it shuts off, at least when I researched this. So it could have been the gas valve, and I should have checked it right now before that was off. Maybe there could have been a call for cooling, but you know what? Now it's on.
and it's working. I'm gonna go ahead and get a little clip of the inside so you can see the evaporator. But that was very interesting that now it's working. So I might clean off the, maybe it's very rusted right here, but I'm gonna go ahead and clean that up. I'm gonna check that I dropped the set point really low so that it stays on, and I wanna make sure it stays on, but honestly, it's working. I'm touching this pipe, it's cold. This right here, you gotta have it open, right? And I believe this is the return. Usually they have the valve where you can close it on the return, but I like I said, I could be wrong. Usually they had this in building automation on the return where you had your actuator right here, but it could be different for these systems. So, but once again, you got your burners right here. You got just the timer. You got your you can say your furnace integrated board module, but it's not a furnace. But this is where you got the spark. You got a high limit right there, capacitor. I guess contactor, but the old ones, transformer, relay, simple stuff that you've seen. And then you got your pump in there, and then of course there's other stuff like your gas valve. And then when dealing with the ammonia, I will have no idea what to do with that. That's completely different. But as you can see, those two pipes right here, this one here and that one there, one goes inside. It's like kind of your chilled water supply, and the other one's your chilled water return. Okay, so this is the indoor unit. I'm up in the attic. As you've seen, an 80% furnace to heat up the house. So yes, we're using natural gas. So since it's an 80% actually gets used to heat up the house, 20% gets vented out through the flue. Interestingly, right, as I had shown you earlier, for cooling, we're using gas, right, to manipulate the ammonia, but 100% of that gas, using it for ammonia to heat it up, it's doing this refrigeration cycle, but we're just getting carbon monoxide coming through the sides of the unit outside. So I could see why if every home maybe in Los Angeles were to have that, that would be a lot of natural gas, although it would be cheaper than running a compressor. But I don't know, now you get into the other factors like carbon monoxide, every single home releasing a lot of carbon monoxide for heating and cooling. So I can see why they made that change, right? But outside that unit that I showed you, it has your absorber, right? Not a compressor, absorber, your condenser, evaporator, and metering device. So typically in commercial industrial systems, you'll hear terms like DX, direct cooling, and indirect cooling. From what I understand, direct cooling, which is what we deal with in residential, like commercial, right, is where you have the return air actually making an impact and touching the piping where the refrigerant is at, right? We do that every day, right? Warm air, boom, hits that evaporator full of refrigerant. But indirect cooling is your evaporator is somewhere else, right? And over there in the other unit, right, over there you have water transferring, right? You have that water basically coming back cold this way, right? So you have, just to kind of explain, right, you got two pipes, okay? So one is your return and one is your supply. So let's just say this one's your supply, okay? So it's coming this way as cold water, right? Cold water, boom, and it fills that coil with cold water. So your return air on a hot day is warm, right? 80 degrees, boom, it comes out at 60 degrees because the water is cold. So the return pipe is gonna be warmer. So let's say this is 35 degrees or 40 degrees. And then this one, because it's collecting the heat from the warm air from the house, comes back as 55, okay? But this water here then, the warm water, goes to the evaporator outside. And then this water makes impact. It touches the ammonia, not directly, of course, but through the piping, and it has that heat transfer. So that's why they call it indirect cooling. And the one last thing I was gonna show you, which I forgot earlier, and I'm sure it's part of the maintenance, right? Like for example, with this part here, I wouldn't even know how to check the ammonia in here. I'm sure it's just checking pressures, but I wouldn't know. I've never worked in this system, but for sure, making sure you have water, right? So right here in the back, right, it's a little cap. So in the back, you take it out and you'll see that there's water right there, right? You see that? I'm gonna try to kind of tap it a little bit. You see that water move? So sure, if that didn't have any water because there's a leak somewhere,
then absolutely you wouldn't have any cooling. So I'm sure at some point they have to maybe, I don't know, they would have to remove all the water and fill it with new water. It should be a closed system, closed loop, but you know, you never know. But yes, this was my experience with this system. It's very interesting. I never thought I'd come into working with one of these. Let me show you. Like, so I'm gonna make sure, right, power is off, right? I'm gonna turn off power just to kind of show you. Remember the contactor, and I already had confirmed this earlier with power off. I did check that I was not getting power between line 1, line 2, and then line 1 to ground, line 2 to ground. But you see, all this is just a switch. So it's just like a contactor. You push it, right, like a push button, and then power goes from here to here, and then powers everything up. Same concept, right? So if you ever find yourself in a system where you're dealing with components that you haven't seen, they're gonna be the same principles. There's just gonna be switches, things that, you know, maybe now they're upgraded. Don't get me wrong though, with the ammonia stuff, I don't have any idea, but everything else kind of seemed familiar. Even the pump too, it's just 240 volts. It's just a switch. Once it goes, it works, pumps water. That's about it. So don't be too intimidated by working on systems you've never worked on. You know, especially if you get sent out to work on these calls, call people, go online, find that this is my method. This is what I did. I got the model number, I went online, looked up information, saw a couple of videos, and boom, it just clicked, and I have an idea. But still, I would not consider myself at all like expert, or I probably would still try to avoid these, right? And you're not gonna really find these at all. Maybe not as much as before, but you never know what you're gonna find. I found this unit here, so but you know what, I'm gonna continue doing a maintenance on it, check the cap, check everything's pretty tight, check the heating components inside, and then we'll call it a day. So I hope that today's video helped you out, helped you to maybe build some confidence to see that even if you're dealing with older parts or components, they're still the same concept as switches. Not so much inverters, we're still dealing with conventional switches. So hope that today's video helped you out, friends, and I'll catch you on the next one.